All right, let's dive into one of the most maddening automotive mysteries out there. Your car's coolant level just keeps dropping, but there's never, ever a puddle on the ground. It's baffling, it's frustrating, and honestly, if you ignore it, it can be really, really bad for your engine. So today, we're going to get to the bottom of it.
You know exactly what I'm talking about, right? You pop the hood, you check the coolant reservoir, and surprise, it's low again. You look under the car, you check your parking spot, bone dry. It's like the coolant is just vanishing into thin air. Well, if that sounds familiar, let me tell you, you're not going crazy. The leak is real, it's just really good at hiding.
So to figure this out, we've got to put on our detective hats. We're going to follow the clues, line up the usual suspects from the most obvious to the most sneaky, and figure out exactly how to crack this case once and for all.
Okay, let's get right to it with suspect number 1. Now, this is by far the most common cause of that mysterious coolant loss, and ironically, it's the one thing almost everybody overlooks.
Meet our prime suspect, the radiator cap. I know, it seems too simple, right? But this little guy isn't just a lid, it's a precision-engineered pressure valve. Its entire job is to keep your whole cooling system under a specific amount of pressure, and that pressure is what allows your coolant to get super hot without actually boiling over into steam.
So here's the difference in a nutshell. A good cap holds that pressure perfectly, but a bad one, maybe the spring is weak or the little rubber seal is worn out, it just can't do its job. It vents that pressure way too early, which lowers the boiling point of the coolant. So your coolant starts to boil, turns into steam, and escapes right through the overflow. And the result? No puddle, just a coolant level that keeps on dropping. So before you do anything else, check the cap. If that seal looks cracked and dry or the spring feels mushy, that's a huge red flag. And this is critical. Make sure it's the right cap for your car. Using a cheap, generic one with the wrong pressure rating is a classic mistake. If you can, always stick with the OEM part, the one the car manufacturer actually designed for your engine.
Okay, let's say the cap checks out. We move on to our next group of suspects. These are actual leaks, but they are absolute masters of disguise, disappearing before you ever have a chance to spot them.
Here's their secret. Tiny little cracks in a hose, or maybe the radiator itself, might only open up when the engine is fully warmed up and the whole system is under pressure. So a tiny bit of coolant seeps out, hits a scorching hot part of the engine, and sizzle, it evaporates instantly. It's gone before it even has a chance to drip onto the ground.
So how do you catch a leak that just disappears? Well, you look for the evidence it leaves behind. When that coolant evaporates, it leaves this telltale residue. It looks like a crusty, chalky stain. It could be white, green, pink, whatever color your antifreeze is. So grab a flashlight and really carefully inspect all the hoses, the radiator, and especially around the water pump. Finding that stain is like finding the smoking gun.
Now, what if the leak isn't under the hood at all? Well, there's one sneaky component that can leak coolant and will never, ever leave a spot on your driveway, and that's the heater core. It's basically a tiny little radiator, and it's hidden deep inside your car's dashboard.
A heater core leak has its own very unique set of clues, and they're all inside the car with you. You might notice that distinct, kind of sweet smell of antifreeze. Or maybe your windows fog up for no reason with this weird, greasy film. And the number 1 giveaway, a damp carpet, usually on the passenger side floor. These are all classic signs that the leak is happening inside the cabin.
All right, we've gone through the common stuff and the hidden leaks. Now we have to consider a much more serious possibility, a true inside job, where the coolant isn't just leaking out of the engine, it's leaking into it.
This is the scenario where the coolant truly vanishes without a single trace on the outside. No drips, no steam you can see, no chalky residue at all.
And that's because your engine is literally consuming the coolant. It's burning it away right along with the gasoline.
The most common reason for this nightmare scenario is a blown head gasket. See, that gasket is the critical seal between the main engine block and the cylinder head up top. When it fails, it basically opens a door, allowing that high-pressure coolant to get into places it has no business being, like into your oil, or worse, directly into the cylinders themselves. Now, even though the leak is happening internally, the signs are very, very external. You might see thick, white smoke billowing out of your exhaust pipe. That's the coolant turning to steam. Or you go to check your oil and the stuff on the dipstick looks like a milky, frothy coffee milkshake. That's a terrible sign. You might also notice bubbles churning in your coolant reservoir, or even smell that sweet antifreeze smell coming from the exhaust.
So, we've identified all our suspects. Now, how do we prove definitively which one is guilty? Let's go over the detective toolkit, the methods you or a mechanic can use to finally get a conviction. You want to follow a logical order here. Start simple. Check the radiator cap. Then do that detailed visual search for any residue stands. If you still come up empty, it's time for the pro tools. A pressure tester is great. It pressurizes the system while it's cold, forcing even the smallest leaks to drip. For the really sneaky ones, you can add a UV dye to the coolant. Then, under a black light, any escaping fluid will glow bright green. And finally, to confirm an internal leak, a combustion test is the final word. It checks for exhaust gases in your coolant. If it finds them, that's definitive proof of a head gasket problem.
Now listen, this is absolutely the most critical piece of advice I can give you. Whatever you think the cause is, if you see your temperature gauge climbing into the red or an overheating warning light comes on, you pull over and shut off the engine as soon as it is safely possible. Trying to make it home when your car is overheating is the fastest way to turn a potentially manageable repair into catastrophic engine failure. Seriously, don't do it.
So you see, that vanishing coolant isn't some magic trick. It's a message. It's your car telling you something's wrong. It could be something as simple as a worn-out cap, or, yeah, it could be something more serious. The whole key is knowing how to read the signs. So the real question is, your car is sending out signals. Are you listening?